I want to talk a little bit about the alternatives to internal combustion engines, or ICE vehicles. I think that we need to phase these things out as soon as possible. The main reason, of course, is our dependence on foreign oil. Wow, this is really getting annoying. I'm sorry. Oh, let me just get all this shit out of my face. Alright. Okay. Wow, it's still in my face. One sec. So now, what was I saying? I was saying, okay, well, the tragedy in the Gulf of Mexico, should be a clear indication to anybody why we need to get rid of our dependence on oil, and also foreign oil. I mean, we went to war over oil, in case you didn't realize that. We went to war over this stuff. We had an oil spill in the Gulf, which had a tremendous impact on the environment. And it's still ongoing. What a nightmare. And it pollutes the environment tremendously. And it has limitations. No matter, they reach the peak of what they can do with internal combustion engines or ICE vehicles. They're not getting any better. The technology has reached its peak. It has reached the plateau. It's not gonna get any better. So where do we go from here? What is the next best alternative? I am convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that electric cars are the future. But there are other alternate fuel sources. Okay, well, there's hydrogen vehicles, and they use fuel cells to provide energy. And the problem with it is, well, there's a few problems with it. You need to first have hydrogen in order to power the thing, and that requires electrolysis of water. So you're spending energy, you're wasting energy to extract the hydrogen, and then you have to put it through this rather inefficient engine which extracts energy from recombining it with oxygen, and then you have water as the byproduct, which is fine, but that can actually, if this becomes more prevalent, it could have an impact on humidity. It's not as bad, obviously, as the CO2 and carbon monoxide emissions that are emitted from ICE vehicles, but why have, it's unnecessary, and it's inefficient. Also, in the engines, it requires platinum. Platinum is expensive, and with this, if hydrogen vehicles were to get off and become much more prevalent, it would increase the price of platinum even more than what it already is. What kind of fucking deal is that? The technology is simply not as advanced, and the performance is not as good as electric vehicles. Yeah, usually people that support hydrogen are people that are trying to undermine the efforts and the successes made by electric vehicles, because they know that electric is much more feasible, but they want to sidetrack the issue by wasting our money and time on something that's impractical, and that's hydrogen. The other common type of alternate fuel source is compressed air. You may have heard of an air car, compressed air car. That will, well, how that works is, in an internal combustion engine, you have the pistons moving up and down, right? Well, that is caused by a controlled explosion, injecting a small amount of gasoline into the cylinder. Spark plug creates a small spark which ignites the fuel, and that causes the piston to move down, or yeah, it causes it to move down. and that moves the pistons, which generates the power it needs in order to run. In a compressed air car, instead of using gasoline and controlled explosions, you are pumping air into the cylinders, which causes the pistons to move. And that's an alternative. The advantage is it doesn't pollute. It's just air. The disadvantage is horrible performance, horrible range, horrible top speed, horrible acceleration, just horrible all around. So compressed air cars, I can see them being useful in like small niches. I don't know. Like, I can't imagine it being too expensive. Yeah, I think that's the one advantage, is that it is inexpensive. But I don't think that advantage really offsets the negatives that are involved in a compressed air car. Then you have ethanol. Question is, the thing about ethanol though is it actually pollutes just as much as ICE vehicles, and performance is worse. And also the problem is that where do you get the ethanol from? Well, what is ethanol? Ethanol is just alcohol. You know, we have this broad term alcohol, but it actually refers to, it's a broad term. There are different kinds of alcohol. You have methanol and then you have ethanol. Ethanol is the same stuff that's in all of your alcoholic beverages, beer, wine, whiskey. That's all ethanol. We just call it alcohol because that's the common alcohol that we're all used to, ethanol. Same stuff. So how do we get it? Well, the way that they get it right now is fermentation of corn. Fermentation is an anaerobic process. Yeast, when deprived of oxygen, will convert energy through this anaerobic process called fermentation, and it's a very inefficient process for it, because its byproduct is ethanol, which is highly combustible, which is good for us because we can use it for powering vehicles and stuff like that. But the problem is, like, if we're getting it from food, this fucking hair. If we're getting it from food, it's taking away food stocks from human beings. So we're powering inanimate objects, vehicles, with stuff, with food, which could have been used to feed starving children in all corners of the world. People are starving to death, and we're wasting food on vehicles. That's a concern for a lot of people. And considering that there are alternatives, like we can use other forms of energy in order to power our vehicles, is this really an ethical thing to do? And the answer is no. I mean, there are alternatives, so let's just use the alternatives. So that's, and the advantages don't offset that at all. Biofuel. Well, biofuel, I really want to talk about, briefly mention the whole used cooking oil thing. I'm pretty sure biofuel is different from the makeshift cooking oil, chicken grease shit that you can just put into a diesel engine. Yeah, actually you can, in a diesel, if you have a diesel car, you can filter out used cooking oil that restaurants throw out all the time. You can filter that and then just pour it into your vehicle, and it'll run. It'll use it. The problem is you have to know how to filter it. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you shouldn't do it, because that can really gunk up the engines and fuck everything up. It's not good during the winter because it can solidify and gunk it up even more. If there are some particles in there, you can't just strain it. That will fuck up the engine. And I believe in the long term it's just not good for the engine in general, but it will work. But this is not something that we can really do on a mass production scale, because right now it works because there's no market for used cooking oil. But if it were to get off, then obviously it would cost money, and it would cost probably the same amount as gasoline. But You know, if you know what you're doing and you have a diesel car, hey, go for it. I don't care. Biofuel, you know, same thing. I don't know enough about biofuel to really comment on it. I think it's a similar deal. But I want to talk about electric cars. Electric cars are fantastic. In terms of in terms of efficiency, first of all, when you do all the calculations, if you convert it out to miles per gallon and you have the equivalency for gasoline-powered cars, you get efficiencies that are over 100 miles per gallon on a high-performance vehicle. That's incredible. And there's no intermediary energy conversions that have to go on like in hydrogen. You don't have to put energy into creating hydrogen, first of all. No, it's directly, you use electricity to recharge batteries, and then the batteries are used to spin the wheels. And yeah, efficiency is the biggest advantage. And performance-wise, if you want to know how good peak performance can be, right now the fastest electric car, and I believe this is done, I believe it's finished, or maybe it will be finished soon, is the Ultium Aero EV. It can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.5 seconds and has a top speed of 208 miles per hour. That's fucking amazing. Now some people are going to be like, some idiots who don't know anything about electric cars say, how long does it last? This is not a laptop. You don't measure the capabilities of the batteries by how long the batteries last. You measure it by how far it will go, what's its travel range. And its travel range is about 150 to 200 miles, which is pretty damn good. And it's more than enough for everyday commuting and things like that. My car is a Chevy Cavalier, and it has about 400 miles traveling range on a full tank of gas. So, you know, ICE vehicles are still superior in their full travel range, but battery electric is catching up, and I have no doubt that in the foreseeable future that it will be just as good, if not better. Especially with the new and innovative technologies like nano batteries, which are really cutting edge things that are coming out. And top speed will become better, and so will acceleration. I mean, 2.5 seconds. That's incredible. And it doesn't pollute at all. There's no emissions. Of course, the question is, well, how do you get the electricity in the first place? Well, that's an issue that has to be dealt with by politicians. And I do think that we need to make more nuclear reactors. We need to invest more money into inertial confinement fusion, which is even cleaner than fission. And we can generate copious amounts of energy from just isotopes of hydrogen, like deuterium or tritium, which at least deuterium is abundant. You can get from seawater. This can be achievable in, you know, I don't want to see the like, it'll be achievable eventually, okay? It's just a matter of time. Right now we'll have to depend on coal, but here's the thing. At least we don't have to depend on oil, because there is plenty of coal in America. We don't have to drill in the oceans, there's not going to be any oil spills, and we don't have to go to wars in other countries in order to extract this. It's right here. So, you tell me, should we depend on foreign oil for the rest of our lives? I don't think we have a choice here.